Have you ever heard of the concept Soultrap? If you've never heard of it, well, it's the basic idea that being here, physically speaking, has occurred because the soul has been tempted or misled to incarnate in what we call a physical universe, in a time-space reality. Now, a soul trap is pretty morbid at first hearing. I mean, the more I look into it, the more it both disturbs me but also starts to make sense in a way, in a weird way. So initially, if that's the same reaction for you, soul trap sounds too dark, almost demonic, it might be off-putting. But here, I want you, or I hope you will listen to this message for a little bit and contemplate it for yourself. Right now, we are experiencing this reality through what we call a physical body. And anything we want to realize takes a certain amount of effort on our part. Yet, we cannot deny that most people have many different kinds of dreams of what they would like to achieve, but it never happens for them. So in this community of law of attraction, etc., we talk about how you could realize your dreams, the life of your dreams. It all sounds wonderful. But the true reality is that most people never really achieve anything that they truly wanted to achieve. Now, why is that? I would say it ties perfectly into the concept of this reality being some kind of soul trap, like us being sort of bogged down, like being limited in our powers. And I can say that from personal experience by being outside of the body through consciousness, that I know I have way more power and ability to manifest whatever I want. In fact, when you're outside of the physical body, the physical realm, you actually experience a universe, you could say, that is responsive to your thoughts and feelings. So when you have a desire, when outside of the body, you can manifest it instantly. It will be brought to you instantly, manifested right in front of your eyes if it has to. You see, I've been through this experience myself. So this is not me just making a claim of something I hope would be true. No, I have experienced this to be true. And as I age, especially since the year 2018, something has started to bug me more and more, but usually I refrain from talking about it. But starting 2023, I want to talk about this way more because I realize it's so important, and that is the fact that I started to have this peculiar feeling within myself as I was going through the days that there's something weird about this reality in which I exist currently. And I'm talking about the physical reality, this whole world itself. There's just something off about it, and I could never really put my finger on what it was. I only noticed that it seemed like people were just going through life under some sort of hypnotic spell, everyone doing almost the same things until the day they pass away. Now this is where it becomes important to understand that if we would allow ourselves to become detached from this physical world, we actually expand in consciousness and we start to experience and perceive a much broader and greater reality than we realized up until that point. Now, many people find it disturbing because last year I even talked about it a couple of times about this idea of being non-attached to everything in your life. People find it disturbing initially because they might say, well, if I'm non-attached to my wife, husband, children, friends, family, whoever they are, if I'm completely non-attached to them, that feels rude, that feels cold. And here's what I hope you start to understand as time goes by. When we say being non-attached, we mean don't be attached to their physical side. In fact, the more you practice this initially for yourself, to not be attached to your physical body, the more you can perceive yourself as a spiritual being, and therefore you realize if I'm not attached to their physical body, I can actually perceive them way more clearly as a spiritual being as well. And then it actually becomes something beautiful to be non-attached to them. So that means that you don't hold on to them because of ignorance, because we are so attached to things physically because we are unaware of what lies beyond the physical from experience. But once you perceive that there's way more beyond the physical, greater realities, dimensions of life to which we all coexist, then you know it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be attached to them physically speaking. You don't have to be attached to anything physically speaking. Now, here's the thing also, that doesn't mean that you're gonna start to become cold to them and treat them like crap and be completely rude. No, you're just not attached to anything because you know this is only a tiny fraction of existence itself, and we've made it so huge that we essentially became trapped in physicality. We became trapped in limitations. Consciousness no longer realizes that it's free, that it's all powerful. You probably no longer realize that you're free and all powerful. But the more you practice being non-attached, letting go of your physical self and who you are, your identity here, the more your consciousness can expand, open up, perceive and receive wisdom and insight of a much broader reality altogether. Now, this is why I find the term Soultrap so interesting, because it is true that most of us, some people remember what they were or where they were before they were born, but let's be honest here, this is another thing, most people don't remember. You see, initially I don't remember it myself. I know I could find the answer, but at the same time by now I don't really necessarily care so much about what I was before I was born here. I rather want to prepare myself for where I'm going after this physical journey is over. So you yourself, you might not even remember what you were before you were born, and therefore you consider yourself purely a physical being. But I would say it makes a lot of sense to consider as a little newborn baby, you might have had the memory or perception of what you were before you incarnated, but as you grow older, as the months go by, slowly and slowly, you're being programmed and trained to live through the senses, to the 5 physical senses. And so you lose your memory of what you were. That is why I consider contemplating dying a very important aspect on this journey. Have you ever considered this for yourself, what it means to die? Most people find this subject disturbing and uncomfortable. They rather not think about it at all. Then they see loved ones die and they cry. I mean, that happened when my mom passed away. I cried. I was very, very sad for a long time. But now I realize, no, it was just a transition for her. How do I come up with this claim? Well, based on my own experiences so far, that I can transition from physical to non-physical realities. And so if you prepare yourself for your own death, you are essentially learning to perceive yourself from a broader perspective before that physical moment comes. And that will help you greatly. It will help you see that indeed, this physical reality, we're taking it way too serious. And when we feel limited in our bodies, this is a true statement, the body in a way creates limitations for consciousness. And as long as we don't realize this, that explains why so many people become so depressed and sad, and they feel so helpless and hopeless about everything, because they don't experience anymore that they are themselves part of a much greater structure of consciousness. And if you forget about this, that's when everything goes downhill fast. And that's sadly what happens to many people around the world. And this is from an angle that most also don't consider it from. You see, we seek the answer physically speaking again. A person is depressed, they seek the solution physically speaking again. But I would say seek it spiritually. Go within, the depths of your consciousness. Learn to go within and perceive yourself as this broader spiritual being that you really are. And you realize that the depression is actually caused by the body. Because if you're outside of the body, again, I know this from experiences, you will feel so free. It's like a weight has been lifted off you, literally. You are formless consciousness, but right now, because of the physical body, you're carrying literally a weight around from perhaps many decades. And that weight makes you feel limited. And then you start to feel depressed, because the depression, in my opinion, in most of humanity exists there because of them having forgotten that they are free, eternal spiritual beings. Because once you reconnect with that and re-experience that, you will indeed no longer be depressed. Now, that doesn't mean that the depression necessarily goes away. It's more like, because with me, I can also feel depressed at times. And personally for me, it is really because of the state of the world, how I observe everything going and being. I kind of find it depressing on its own to look at it. And then I'm like, but thankfully this is not the only side of my existence. This is not the only place that I will be in. But you see, if physicality is the only reality you know, then you naturally will not consider anything beyond it. And then you will feel completely hopeless, helpless. This whole world becomes intimidating and a pain in the ass, literally. You just don't want to wake up and do things anymore, because screw it, man, nothing is fun anymore. That's a point some people have reached. And sadly, that also pushes some people to suicide. And that changed my mind dramatically about the concept of suicide, that these people were basically from a spiritual perspective drawn so intensely to get out of this limited reality that is dragging them down so much that they essentially set themselves free in the act of suicide. Now, of course, I am aware at the same time that if you were to do such a thing, to take your own life while you're in a state of complete ignorance about your own spiritual nature to begin with, then it's still not perhaps gonna be very great once you leave this body, because it is all dependent upon your consciousness. You see, the non-physical realities respond to your own states of consciousness, and if you don't know how to actually direct your own consciousness at will, then you will have some weird stuff going on over there as well, where you still need to learn it. That was told to me in a non-physical reality. If you feel that you can do something, then you will. Okay, I put it to the test. I can instantly manifest whatsoever I desired in non-physical realities. It's true. You know, consciousness responds to it. My consciousness causes it to manifest. Well, before that point, if I didn't know it, it's like you're just doing stuff without actual awareness of what's going on. Now, that's why I consider this reality indeed some kind of soul trap, in the sense that if you are here physically speaking but never learn about your spiritual nature, then you've essentially been entrapped in limitations of the finite world. And we want to go beyond the finite. We want to understand the infinite, even though you can't fully grasp it at all, but at least reaching out to watch the infinite with your own consciousness means you are in a process of expanding your awareness way beyond physical limitations. And then when the body dies, you can make use of that. You can then make use of your true nature the way it should have been. And this is very interesting. I know there's many angles from which we can approach this whole subject, but this is just one of them that I figured I wanted to share, because ultimately, the more the years go by, the older I get, slowly but surely. I'm not a very old guy, I know, but to me, it's like all these physical things, they become so strange, so almost meaningless. But yeah, I mean, that's mostly because I've seen these broader realities, and I realize this physical one right now, it feels so limited. I can't just go out my house and levitate. I can't just manifest instantly pile of money if I want it, for example, or just, even though non-physically you don't even need money, but I tested it out. Could I manifest money instantly from the air? I did. I mean, I did all kinds of weird stuff that you might be wondering, like, what the hell is that all about? But that was just me practicing and testing out, is there any limit to my consciousness? No, there isn't. But yet when I'm physically here, I feel completely limited, and I don't want to feel limited, but yet I'm here. So while I'm here, to a certain extent, I'll always be limited. But by knowing that I'm something much broader, I can also have something to look forward to work towards while I'm here anyway. And then this whole life journey, this physical incarnation, becomes like a stepping stone, towards an even broader reality, a broader experience of life itself that is no longer tied and limited by physical elements. You see how interesting this can become? I hope you contemplate for yourself, because you are on a journey that is so great, so broad, you can't even imagine. But as long as you believe yourself to be only a physical human being, well, you'll never really have the conscious experience of what that is all about, sadly. And that is where the soul gets trapped. We need to get out of it, and I hope you will work on it for yourself. If not, it's fine. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything that I say, of course, but this is just what I'm doing, and I like to talk about it. But anyways, I'll let you go for now. But never forget, dear viewer, that we are the dreamers.